Hello everyone, welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We're back with the second in a series of 3 played between Haymaker's team and Osama Bin Liftin's team in the Knights and Squires tournament. We have another tournament game for you guys. I'm excited about it. Hope you guys are as well. And we are going to be looking today from Osama Bin Liftin's perspective, but by popular demand, the next game, the final in the series of 3, will be played from the neutral perspective so we can see all of what's going on, not just the narrative, from one side or the other. I still think there's value in looking at it from one side or the other because we see more into their decision making, even if we don't see everything going on at one point in time. But we'll do both. Why not? Seems like a good idea to me. So, right here off the bat, OBL's team is looking to get an early tick, which on Nuclear Winter can be a very powerful thing. +2, so of course 2 players diffuses the cost of that 3 CV start just a little bit more. And it looks like they're actually trying to avoid the usual delta in the air sort of thing, which Haymaker's team is taking advantage of. Now, into an ISO 90, that can be, brutal. I think actually both teams are playing red. Yeah, it looks like it. And I think actually Osama Bin Liftin and Haymaker are both playing red dragons. So we'll see. Yeah, we should see. Oh man, Savas could be nice. Okay, this is really, really dangerous. MI-17s are amazing at killing everything, even if they shouldn't necessarily be. And that is a very important kill on the blue team's anti-air. I always feel weird saying blue 4's anti-air when it's red versus red, but the blue team's anti-air, and this can be hard to recover from, even in 1v1, let alone 2v2, and OBL's whole big column here, it is stunning himself. Oh my goodness. Alright, well, yeah, not ideal, but that's pretty goofy. There are some good engagements. Keyhout picking up some nice kills on ZSDs. The AV Whore, yeah. So the issue is blue is going to have to make a decision really, really quickly. Do they take advantage of their pressure in their opponent's 2, or do they try and rescue their own? And with an M91 AV Whore here, I think that is definitely possible. Let's see. Okay, bomber didn't drop. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Please, please evac that. No. Lucky. Well, I guess not lucky for red team. And we are in red team's perspective today, so that will be good is good for red, bad is good for blue, bad for red, things like that. And that's sort of how we're going to have it there. So nice pickup from red there. Not sure why that bomber didn't drop, but the HQ-7, surprisingly good anti-plane if it has enough times to shoot. 6 HE is, of course, very, very deadly. Only 2 hits needed to kill. So, it does kind of look like Haymaker's team here is potentially the one with a bit more momentum. The reason I say that, yes, red 4 is into India, but blue 4 is into alpha, and this is not nearly as contested. So blue still has a fair amount in this lower corner here, including at least 1 super heavy tank. And while it can be tough getting these building blocks back, I mean, red has to do that for both the buildings and the woods in alpha. Now, I'm really curious how this is going to go. When I was doing the Adopt a Noob tournament on the Blitzwar community channel, and I was teamed up with, oh, please attack move that, no, okay, please attack move this, yes. Teamed up with the Mint Jellyman, we often ended up playing over alpha in the late game, especially when we were on the side that Osama Bin Liftin's team is on. And part of how we always try to do this was you secure a defensive line here, and then you secure fire support here, and use it to deny the close-in buildings. And I'm really curious if Osama Bin Liftin's team is going to do the same thing, or if they have a different way of approaching it, and how successful that's going to be, because there's a lot here. That's a T90S from Haymaker, which would frankly surprise me. He's not usually the type to bring a lot of super heavies, and this one is very early, but I like it. I really do. I think this will help command the open ground here, deny reinforcements, and it doesn't even look like... Yeah, I mean, holy cow. So 1 KT, nice job. Getting the kill on Specialnia Notki is always good, but that could be a really, really bad mistake. So things like the Syria need to get in, need to get out with their target. And in team games in particular, I think there's always the space to, well, not always, there's very often the space to make sure you're sending seed, and neither player on red did just then. And because of that, both of those planes got injured, neither one of them really made their money back, and the PGZ-88s are actually reasonably armored. So red 4 launching a little bit of an anemic counterattack with planes there, and this is risky, but I like it. Pion PSVs have enough AP to be deadly from close-in side shots. but it kind of looks like the coordination here is breaking down. So what's probably happening on the Red 4 team is, I would imagine, they're talking about needing to get something to retake Alpha, and what's happening is it's allowing Keyhow and Haymaker. Wow. Okay, I had expected just Keyhow to be pushing in on that side. You know what? I think let's do it. Let's flip to neutral. I want to see more about this, and I think you guys might be right about that. And we'll see how this video does. If you guys like this change in perspective, let me know. But holy cow. Yeah, I don't think Red's going to be able to hold this. Just very nice coordination from the blue 4 teams, EST90s, Lujan Dewey. It'd be nice to have more of the Motostrelci in front of the Lujan Dewey here, but I don't think it's going to end up mattering, that little bit of extra damage. In the meantime, let's take a look here. We have Tankasha Shell, we have PGZ-88s, nice MLRS from BM-24s. These guys are very cheap, but very, very effective at stunning things. If you haven't tried them and you play Red Dragons, well, the Coalition, not the game, give them a try. They only carry 1 salvo, you have to resupply them, but they're very, very good for getting a temporary advantage on the ground with stuns. Okay. I think there's still space in this game for Red. But what's interesting... Oh man. What's interesting to me is that neither team is really going for Delta. They want to make this about the +2 zones, which is counter to some strategies that say, okay, well, if you can each have the +2, whoever owns the +1 wins. Neither team wants to have it reduced to that, which is I think pretty cool. It's a more exciting game, I think, when people are taking the risks for the more difficult to take but more dynamic zones if you do take them. And holy cow, look at this investment. Might actually be an over-investment here from blue. I can't imagine you need triple BVPM80A here as well on top of things like the ZSTs, the Zanshi, Mostrelci, but they might not have known that. So this is a game with less than perfect information. It's the one reason that I really do think that sometimes the one-sided perspective can be quite valuable. Okay, honestly, I think blue has just been trading really, really well. Let's take a zoom out here and look at the unit density. On this bottom lane, we have a lot of blue units. We really only have this one red stronghold here, and it's mostly lines. HQ7, and then on this side, there's still a T90S, mostly full health. There's a lot of Tankasha, there's a lot of infantry, there's even a lot of supporting elements in here, and Red doesn't really have a front line to combat it. Some of this, by the way, is going to come from the fact that Red has been buying planes, a lot of J7Hs, and they are really, really good for hitting infantry positions, plus blue hasn't been able to punish it yet either. Not really. With plane damage, yes, but not really with kills. Right, and the best way to punish enemy planes is with kills, not with just damage, because even if it does take a little bit longer to come back out, it will come back out, as long as it stays alive, even on 1 health. So J7H, that's going to deny here. I mean, questionable return on investment, especially with the swing and a miss there, but things do get a little bit hectic in these bigger games. It's actually one of the reasons, so the whole Knights and Squires tournament, the Knights here are Haymaker and Osama Bin Liftin, the Squires Keyhow and Toby Nember, and most of that is based off of your 1v1 rank. There definitely is a difference between your skill at 1v1s and your skill at team games. It's just the best metric that I have. So moving forward past this tournament, I'd like to make the Knights and Squires ranking into sort of like a team game version of the boot camp, rookie, trained, hardened, veteran, elite, that sort of system. But it will require a lot of people to want that. So if you do want that, let me know, and, well, let me know over on the Discord as well, and we can see about it. Even though the tournament is currently running, I intend for the roles to stick around and to be useful after the fact. So hopefully we can make that a thing. J7H there does die. I think this has to either work right now, or blue is going to have a very dominant game, because they could, frankly, attack move from here, and red would be hard-pressed to stop it. Zanshi just are not enough of a roadblock for that. So with that, I think they need to retake their own +2. And it could be possible... So double ZTZ-85-2A is an interesting choice here, and I don't know what other tanks are in the deck, but whenever I see a T90S or if I see an enemy super heavy, I don't like buying these 80-point tanks. And I think what he's going for here is to get yes, into this position to use this fire support against the enemy buildings. I suppose that could work if the T-90S only lives over here, but the problem you're going to run into is that a lot of people, when they see tanks there, they'll drive forward to right about here. So this section of woods is not blocked by buildings, and you can respond into units that are in this section of woods as well. So really from this sort of base position with your super, you can go forward to fight here, or you can come to the side and fight here. It's actually really flexible, which I like, unless it's used against me, in which case I hate it. But that's the nature of this anyway. So Mi-17 should get the kill. Yep, CC are dead. That gets rid of recon for Red 4, and this looks actually much more one-sided. So in the previous game, if you remember, Red 4 was able to sort of stretch the field and really picked on Haymaker's units in isolation, and then used that focus to allow them to really only have to deal with Keyhow pushing instead of with Haymaker pushing. And here it looks like their units are really well intermixed. So let's take a look. A lot of, yep, so Haymaker's more over here than Keyhow is, but Keyhow still does have a fair amount. There's Neva M1T, there's a Plowman coming up, there's Milostrelci. There were more infantry as well from Keyhow over here. I think those have somewhat been taken out a little bit, but they're working together a little bit more here, which can make that more difficult to then isolate. And, oh yep, here it is, here it is, here it is. Not into the fire, though. That's risky. Units behave weird around fire. They'll turn, they'll back up, they'll fail to actually attack move. They can very easily present side armor. It's a very tough thing. If you can ever engage without going up and into fire, like even that right now, that forward back there, I don't know if all of that was intentional. It could be that if you leave units in fire, they'll automatically path out of it. So it could be that Haymaker was trying to engage there and really couldn't because of the fire in the woods, which, I mean, that's Wargame for you. It'll happen from time to time. And now if we look, because of the failure of the India push combined with the success of the Alpha push, that early +2 tick doesn't really matter so much. And a lot of people, I think, will tell you this is a game, well, this is a map that can be very swingy, and as much as sometimes the early +2 can be crippling, sometimes the late +2 or +4 is even more so. It really all depends on how long you can keep that advantage in either direction, and there are viable strategies, I think, in both directions for it. So let's see, this is looking more promising, but I mean, the 85-2As need to be up here shooting. They're mostly repaired now, or this needs to not go in. So if you're going to send in your Zanshi, there needs to be something getting kills while these guys are getting killed in order to make that somewhat an even trade. Without the ability to shoot those Tankashasho, well, I guess one did die to Yakari 90, but that, I mean, that's not really as reliable. I think it would have been also nice to have the Ito 90 over here as well, just to deny things like the Mi-17, which you can't always guess that's going to be there, but once you've seen it there, you can respond, and it's nice to see that response, which we don't quite see at the moment. I think at this point the AV Horde needs to rotate. This is a lot, but the AV Horde is a huge amount of cost, and you already have BVPs, you have... Yeah, I would rotate the V-Horde away and get an ATGM here, unless the intention is to go in for a push, in which case that should happen now. And the reason I say that should happen now, even though Alpha looks like it's struggling, is precisely because Alpha is struggling. If we look now at the Red 4 team, Osama Bin Liftin's buying for over here, and Toby Namber has also been buying a fair amount. He's bought the CV, there's Yakari 90, I mean, it adds up. Yakari 90 are only 10 points plus the 5-point transport, but there's a fair number of them. BMP2s, KT, ATGM, Pion, everything like this. And if Keyhow really dials up the pressure on Foxtrot, at least one of the Red 4 players is going to have to reinforce in there, and that could buy time. Right, if we look at Toby Namber, if we look at this and we say, okay, if Keyhow had attack move in 5-6 minutes earlier, half of what Toby has here wouldn't be in this position. It might have denied them the CV, it might have denied them the ability to hold this front, and that could be a game-making difference. So whenever you have local superiority, even if it is really, really tough to figure that out, this is why you want to poke and prod and identify what is where you can attack, where you can take advantage of your opponent's weakness, because doing that even will take away from where they're strong and where they're gathering. Oh, nice puppet on C90. That's a tough loss right there for OBL. And I like this push from Haymaker. So if red is making progress on this side, push him back on this side. If they're making progress here, push him back over there. It's that whole sort of engage where you can, get the pickups that you can, and PGZs. Goodness gracious. Okay, plumbing. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, and red has to respond to this as well, because the CV is here, which will take away from some of their coordination on the other side of that zone. But nice rock 91. This is an Oregon, by the way. It's a Finnish Oregon stat copy. Same unit as the USSR Oregon. So very often you see people only fire half the salvo and then refire half the salvo. The reason for that is actually in what happened to these infantry. They're not dead, but they are panicked and stunned. They're moving slower because they're panicked. When they're stunned, of course, they can't move or fight at all. Counter cap here. So what you do by splitting the salvo is you either hit two locations or even the same location twice and extend the effect of the morale damage and the stuns, because while the second half comes in later on and it still will deal the same morale damage as it would as it would with or without the rest of the salvo. So you can actually extend the impact in a region by splitting up those expensive and was that a side shot? Those expensive MLRS volleys, because they're expensive in terms of time, initial cost, and supply as well. So there's nothing cheap about that salvo. You really need to make use of the stun that you get, and this is brutal. Not only is the Copa pushed out, but that now means that Alpha's capped for blue. That's a +4 tick, 60 points a minute. Let's just say that again, 60 points a minute. At a +4 tick, you straight up win the game in under 10 minutes. It's really bonkers. It's one of those amounts of tick that you do not need to hold for very long, and if red cannot do anything about it, then this is going to be a short game, and we only have about 6-ish minutes left. Something says to me that lines up more or less with when that +4 tick is going to get to 500 points. And I think we've seen... So, red almost got the push out. Spare CV. Oh my... Yeah, that's not always going to be that necessary. Come on, this is an M84. It's a combat-capable tank, even with only 2 top. There hasn't been any cluster yet. Lujan doing 90 here. Yeah, ZST 90. That's going to be more Lujan doing 90 from Haymaker. Syria's looking for a kill, but the question is on what? Right, we haven't really seen the T90S exposed that much. It's nice. It's being withdrawn now. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Neva M1T over here. I think there was, yeah, Neva M1T over here. I really think, as great of a unit as this is for Entente in 1v1, it's amazing, amazing, amazing in team games, because you have even more planes, and people will have both players response buying planes. So having that non-radar, long-range anti-plane, anti-air, that's a sentence, can be just insanely good. So I think Entente really, really, really thrives in the team game environment, even though it's already strong in 1v1 as well. Plummin, great timing. Great timing on the Plummin. You can't split that volley, to my knowledge, by the way. Like, well, yeah, I guess you can. No, that looks like it was partially resupplied. It's much more difficult to, certainly. It's also a little bit less important. The Plummin carries 3 volleys internally. And I think, yeah, what am I talking about? You definitely can. Yeah, red needed to go forward here in order to stabilize. I think, honestly, too much backline. I think we've seen that from red here. Too much backline too early, because there's 2 Rock 91s was not the order of the day. 140 more points on the ground would be very, very helpful. 280 points more on the ground, I think, would be very helpful, especially considering there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 BM24s, 50 points each, 250 points over here, 280 points over there. That's a lot. That's a huge investment. And it looks to me right now the issue isn't that any of this stuff is happy from the Blue Force side. It's all panicked, it's all damaged, it's all in a very unhappy place. It's more of that there's nothing there to seal the deal. There's nothing there really to fight that T90S, and a super heavy buy from this side I think would have helped quite a bit. The 2As are very nice, don't get me wrong. These tanks are not horrible by any stretch. Some of the cheapest 19 AP you can get in a main battle tank, although it does lose out in armor to the M84A. Yeah, jeez. This is just, it stuns the match. It really is. It's just, everything here is sad, but nothing here is dead. Yeah, 371. Has there been any movement here? No. Yeah, I really think, Kihao, if you're watching this, certainly over on this side as well, just take a mortar and smoke off a little bit at the town because people will put ATGM stuff here. See if you can get forward, that spike will fire and you can deal with it or not. Simply having pressure here, especially with Proletary, that the spikes can't, identify, get up into this section of woods, it'll really panic the Red 4 player, because if you can shoot the gap from here to here, well, then they have to clear that entire massive section of woods, because you could be anywhere in that section and loop around to get the CV. So I think that would be a nice thing to see in future games on this map, if you're on the same side of it anyway. Something to keep in mind in 1v1s as well, it's a nice way to deny... Foxtrot, most people I think don't really view as that dynamic because it ends up being fought around these two towns. If you can get into the woods, dude, do it. Every single time, twice on Sundays. Penserier KNIGHTS, re-counter cap here, that will buy a little bit more time, but still at 30 points a minute, we don't have that much longer left. We have 2 minutes left, and that actually matches up exactly. Yeah, okay, so Blue 4 wins on tick here. Let's see how they keep the M84AK alive, because this is pretty dangerous. MI-17, BMP-2, yep, surviving that forefront. Very timely reinforcements from both players, Haymaker and Kihao here, exactly when they needed to have them. And I'd say at this point as well, you might even move the Lujan Dewey 90 over to help sweep and clear. But I can see why maybe not. But I mean, there's an M84AN right here. Anything crossing is going to get shot. If it's a tank, it's going to get side shot. Yeah, definitely. I would have probably moved the Lujan Dewey 90 over here as well. And I think that T90S was just an amazing buy. It's been alive all game. It's gotten value all game. It's been just a roadblock that Red 4 can't, or hasn't at least had an answer for yet. JH7. Oh, this is actually really cool as well. So that missile is off. It won't accidentally shoot at anything while it's just circling, which otherwise ATGM planes definitely do. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Man, 4 shots, 4 misses. That's a lucky plane. Very, very lucky plane. Yeah, there's just too much here. Proletary 90, T90S, BVP. Even the Hwasong Chongs, don't underestimate the ZPT-U2s. They will deal decent anti-infantry if they're engaging behind something like lines or other units like that. J7H, J7H, more bombers coming in. Wow. Alright, well, this is going to make this series of 3, 1-1. So we're going to have to see who wins game 3. This is, of course, the intention of the series of 3 is to have everybody in a small group play each other. That's going to need a little bit of revisiting because we've had a fair number of teams that have had to withdraw. But I'm hoping to still cast the games anyway, because I mean, tourney games are their own special kind of fun and madness oftentimes, and I really enjoy doing that sort of thing. So, 501 points to 131 in terms of conquest, a very decisive game. But interestingly, 3085 to 3085 kills losses, I mean, yeah, they won't always match because of explosions, napalm, weirdness about Eugen, but in terms of kills, this was actually incredibly even. And Haymaker, for as decisive as his contribution was in terms of getting that T90S forward and really pushing into the +2 at the beginning, he did take a beating for it. But remember, this is Conquest. 500 points, nothing else matters. That's all we're going to have for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.